Now that we've been able to return our data from our Google Sheet, let's make use of that data. And the value that we're actually after, that we're looking for, is going to be within entry, because we saw that this is where those 2 rows of data that we're after are contained. And of course, if we update it to have even more rows, so let's add an additional row. So this one's at 1, 2, 3 or whatever, and put her in group 8. So if we go back into our application, and if I load data, and now if we go into the feed, we go into entry, we see that we've got that new one has been entered in there. So we've got access to that information as well. So we've got it in a number of ways. So we've got it within content, and we've got it within JSX $, and then the name of the first column. And we can see that we've got first, last, company, group. So that's where it's getting that information from. So it's getting that first, last, company, group, and it's applying JSX $ in front of that. So then we're able to identify those values within that type of format. And that's where the information is being contained. So next, let's loop through our data. And we want to loop through, so we don't want to loop through all the data. We want to loop through data, feed, entry. And we'll just make sure that we've got the right one, so the right value. So there we go. So we've got an array. Array has a length. So that makes it really easy, of course, to loop through it. I'm going to use a jQuery function to loop through it. So we're going to use each. We're going to grab that data, feed, entry. And what we're going to do with it, we're going to list out the key, and we'll list out the value of it as we loop through, iterate through it. And for now, again, let's just use our console log just to make sure that we are actually outputting the data properly. So let's refresh console log. So there we go. So we've got the key, so that's the index value. And then we've got the entire object here within value, and now we can make our selections here of the elements that we want to make use of. So we've got the values there, and let's say, for instance, we want to get JSX $company, and we want to get $T. So let's see if we can pull that information back. So that returns back all of the company values that were brought in there. And if we want to pull back the additional information, we can grab it. So that's how we can get company. We can also get first. So first, last, company, and the last one was group. So this can retrieve back all of those pieces of data. So now when we click load, so there it is. So this is all the information coming from the Google Sheet. So now all we have to do is just format it and make use of it. So I'll just create a blank element, and this one is going to be, we'll give it an H3, Google Sheet data. And we can also make use of some of the other data that came back. So it's up to you. So now let's output that information into our variable, and then afterwards, so we can append it within our element, or we could just do it after we complete the loop. So that's usually my preferred way to do that. So I like to kind of loop through everything first, and then I'll grab the element and I'll do HTML. So that just simply outputs the contents of the variable into the output element, which we created earlier. So that's going to dump all of that information in there. So next, let's build this out. So do HTML equals HTML plus. We've got a choice here. We can set up variables for that if we want, or we can just grab them in separately. So let's grab them in separately. So that's the first name. And I know it's kind of ugly, the values there, but this is just the way that it comes by default. And later on in the course, I'm going to be showing you a better way to pull that data, so you have actually more control over what the names are and how everything looks. So there's a lot more control coming up. So this was just a default easy way to do this and to pull this information out, that you could make use of it within your code. And let's do one more. So we've got, last one is the group. So it's the group, get rid of that. And we'll just close off our div. So there we go. So that's all we should need to do. Let's go take a look at our loader here. And we can minimize this, make it smaller. So there we go. So we're pulling in that data. And notice if we add additional new information there, we can easily have that update whenever we load the data. There's that new line that we just added in. So it's as easy as that to make use of Google Sheets and get that JSON data and then output it into a web application. And of course, you could format it a whole lot better, apply some styling, and do something really nice with that output. So go ahead and try this out for yourself and load that data, make use of that data, output it into your HTML page. And coming up, I'm going to show you some additional ways that you can work with this data. I'm also going to show you how you can post to your Google Sheet. So that's going to be really neat, and that's all coming up. So the latter part of the lessons are going to be a little bit more advanced, and we're still going to be using jQuery as our main method to call Ajax. And of course, you could do this within JavaScript, or you could do it in Fetch, or you could use another Ajax library. So there's a lot of options at this point, because all we're really doing with the jQuery is making those calls. And then we've got some of that jQuery syntax that we're making use of for the event listeners as well as for the HTML output.